because of 4th of July, because Cars.com does their annual Made in America Index, we thought we'd kick off this live stream / podcast thing with going over the most American-made trucks you can buy. And thank you very much, Jill, because you put this together and you put a hyphen in the American-made immediately, so it changed my title as live stream because I was like, oh, I know she'll call me on it. Make sure you put the title, make sure you put the hyphen there. All right, so let's go to the website. Look how magic it is. Magical.
Do you understand why I put the hyphen in there?
Compound modifier.
You get a gold star.
All right, that's it for tonight. See you guys later. Bye.
Yeah,
out of here.
Never out.
Never out. Okay, the American Made Index 2023. Again, I'm going to do a separate video. So you're watching a separate video. Hi, we're doing this part of the live stream, but I want to talk to you guys about this specifically because it always creates lots of, I will call them discussions in a kind way. So it's on pickuptrucktalk.com. And so Jill wrote this up. It's cars.com, American Made Index, AMI. AMI. All right. And Jill, I hear I'm talking over your article here, but what do you think? So kind of walk us through this. I'm going to start scrolling down, and I'm going to get down to the top things. So did you talk to cars.com? Did you read the press release? Did you have a conversation with them?
I looked at their website. They do the rounds where they go to the APA and they came to Mama and they talk about the American Made Index, and I didn't get in to see any of those this year. So literally I just looked at their American Made Index and their commentary from their website. But really, I mean, the list itself, I mean, it speaks for itself. And there's 17 trucks on the list this year. And I am always perpetually surprised. When I first started doing the American Made Index, the top most American truck was the Ford Ranger. And over the past couple of years, that has completely changed. And I want to say the Ford Ranger is now towards the bottom of the list. And the most #1 American-made truck, as you can see at the bottom of the screen right there, is the Ridgeline, the Honda Ridgeline. And then you have the Toyota Tundra. But the first American truck is going to be the Jeep Gladiator. And I just find this fascinating because they're not just looking at final assembly point, because all of these trucks, their final assembly point is in the United States. But what they're also looking at is where the parts come from, you know, where the engines come from, like where are the engines assembled, you know, where, like who's hiring the most American workers. And so I just always find it fascinating that you've got like Hyundai, Toyota, and Honda as a part of the top 5 most American, quote unquote, automakers who are giving Americans jobs and putting money into American pockets. Then, like the bottom five trucks are the Detroit 3. And, you know, GMC and Chevrolet, the Sierra and the Silverado, have been at the bottom of the list. I think every year that I've looked at it, which again, always boggles my mind because it's assembled in Fort Wayne, Indiana. But I mean, it ranks 95 and 96 on the list. Those two trucks do out of 100. So they are literally bottom of the barrel in terms of how American they are. And it just, like, they should be the most American trucks.
Yeah, I mean, how many, was it Apple Pie, Chevrolet Apple Pie songs do we know? I mean, that's, so for those listening on the podcast, we should go over these real fast because they can't see the screen. But yeah, Honda Ridgeline, Toyota Tundra, Jeep Gladiator, Ram 1500, Hyundai Santa Cruz, GMC Canyon, Chevrolet Colorado, the Ford F-150 Lightning. This is where things get interesting. This Lightning out. The Toyota Tundra Hybrid, and that's because of the batteries. You can see the difference between the battery probably is built overseas or built in Mexico someplace, and a lot of differences there. Nissan Titan, Ford F-150 Hybrid, the Nissan Frontier, Ford F-50, Ford Ranger, Ram 1500 Classic, GMC Sierra 1500, and Chevrolet Silverado 1500, like as Jill mentioned. But they separate these out because with the battery production, that's a big part of a hybrid or an EV vehicle, and so that's as important as the engine. So I mean, you got to separate those things out to figure out where they rank. But it is interesting. So the 5 criteria, by the way, if we missed those, it was up here. The story.
I'm like all the way.
Yeah, it's right here. Assembly location, parts content, engine origin, transmission origin, and U.S. manufacturing workforce. What's interesting with this, they looked at North America. No, they looked at just made in America.
And I think it's American and Canadian parts.
Yeah.
It doesn't count for Mexican parts.
Which is really interesting because Mexico has one of the largest, that's where we get a lot of our parts from, I should say. Mexico and China are the biggest part suppliers. And so, and they wanted trucks to hit at least 60% American and Canadian parts.
Yeah. Well, actually what they're saying is trucks are struggling to hit 60%. And I find that fascinating. And so that's why you won't see the Toyota Tacoma on this list, at least the current generation Tacoma, because it is assembled in Mexico at this point. And so I don't know if I was looking at the 2024 press materials for the Tacoma, and I don't know if that changes because I didn't see assembly listed, and I did a quick Google search and didn't see it. So if anybody out there is familiar with Toyota and their assembly locations, if they know that the 2024 Tacoma is assembled someplace else, I would, definitely comment below and let us know. I couldn't
there's two places. There's the Baja facility in Mexico. Then there's what we call G-Town. It's Guanajuato, I think it's something like that in Mexico. Yeah. So yeah, but you're right. I mean, so with the 2023 Tundra hitting manufacturing, they moved all Tacoma production out of America.
It used to be in, I want to say San Antonio. It was in Texas.
Yeah, it was in San Antonio. Yep. And so they had this. They split the plant between the Tacoma and the Tundra. Now with the Tundra taking over most of that plant capacity, they're going to build that and the Sequoia in San Antonio. That's going to be it. The Sequoia used to be built in Princetown, Indiana. Now it's moving down to San Antonio. So yeah, so it is interesting. And the thing is, you're looking at parts. I mean, that's a big thing. Parts are not in Canada or Mexico. They're in Mexico and China just because of wages and things like that going on. And it is interesting. And I was in Fort Wayne, and I remember talking to guys in Fort Wayne, and they were like, they had to bring in robots because they cannot hire enough workforce. So I mean, they're like, if we don't have, remember I was talking to Bilstein too about that, and Bilstein was like, had all these robots in there, and he goes, I'm still got, I think, 60 job openings, and he's like, all these robots. He's like, I have to do something. All right, so I want to get to another story. We're going to talk a little bit. It's going to be used truck pricing, but I'm going to answer a few questions.
Well, and I've got one more thing that I want to say about this list before you ask questions, before we move on. And it's just more of a for your consideration kind of comment. What I find really interesting is the Ford F-150 Lightning is the most American truck out there, and that's the EV version of the F-150 pickup truck. And I think that with the Chevy EV and the GMC EV coming to market, I think those will also rank higher on the list than their gasoline counterparts, mostly because of the IRA with the federal incentives to have EVs be American made so that you can get tax credits. So I think as we start to push out more electric trucks, I think we'll see the Detroit 3 getting higher on the list. Because they're going to want to be able to qualify for the tax credits. And so I thought it was interesting that the F-150 Lightning was the most American truck. And if you dig into the American index a little bit, definitely, I've got the link to the actual data in this story. And if you go into the story, you'll see essentially the top 5 are all Tesla truck or not trucks, but SUVs and cars, because they source, assemble, hire, all of their stuff is done in America, and they blow the most American index away.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot to be said for so you look at this list too. Honda Ridgeline is only built and for sale in the United States. Toyota Tundra is only sold in the United States. And so there's some play with that. Jeep Gladiator, I believe that one, I don't think that one's exported. I think it's all United States, plus the Jeep facility in Toledo, Ohio. Jeep's, I mean, you can't really do much more with Jeep than it's not going to happen. Ram is between Mexico and Canada. I mean, the Ram brand straddles the border. Hyundai Santa Cruz, I mean, I think that's only sold in the United States. The GMC Canyon, Chevrolet Colorado, those are only, well, the Colorado is global, but it's a different version. So again, those trucks are only sold in the United States. Ford F-150 Lightning is only sold in the United States. So the Tundra is only sold in the United States. So it's like these vehicles aren't saying those companies are not American anymore. No, some of these vehicles are also saying, well, they're not sold elsewhere. so that's part of the gig as well.